Together as we initiate chaos theory guarantees that we'll play like lightning shots sounding like thunder. For every time in the face that it hits us, we're faster. Well, they should know by now. They see the world keeps trying to shake us. It only waits us. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. It's in a beautiful darkness, only another. It's full steam ahead, full steam ahead. All above the Betty Express, misdirected from the start. It's a runaway train. I come a freight train. I come a freight train. In a beautiful darkness, the Betty Express. In a beautiful darkness.
Hey, you guys, it's Mo, and we are waiting right now. I do have it pulled up. We've got about 14 minutes before the sentencing of Megan Boswell. I did cover the Megan Boswell case. Very heartbreaking. No one likes these cases where, tiny innocent babies are lost from the world. But the mom is being sentenced today, so we are probably in for some puppy kitten breaks because we are probably in for some not fun victim impact statements and the father of this baby who didn't really get a chance to be in her life and everyone else. But I figured while we were waiting, and welcome Spinster and Denise and Sticky Widget. Yeah, I just saw this pop up and I'm trying to be more spontaneous and flexible to do some of these. So this is actually great. This is in Bluntville or Bloutville, Tennessee. Convicted murderer Megan Boswell is set to be sentenced Friday in Sullivan County. A jury found Megan guilty in February of taking the life of her daughter, Evelyn. Now, a jury recommended a life sentence in prison with a possibility of parole after 51 years. Evelyn's remains were found in March 2020. She was reported missing in February 2020, but had not been seen since December of 2019. And we are simply waiting for the stream to come on, so we have that waiting. But I figured we would just wait here. Oh, crud. I removed me and not this. Such a dingus. That being said, this case, if you don't remember it, it was in Tennessee. Baby Evelyn had been reported as missing in 2020, basically after being missing for a very significant amount of time, where Megan was saying that the baby was with her father. Now, the father of this baby was I think a private first class or possibly a specialist, but he was on a military base doing his advanced training for the military. And no way would he actually have had, custody of a baby when he was in the military. This is not happening. So all the stories of Megan telling, where Evelyn had gone got stranger, then she tried to throw her mother under the bus saying, no, I swear my mom, took the baby and she's hiding her from me. She kept doing interviews about, well, my mom has it. And if the police aren't going to look where I told them to look, then I'm going to go do it myself. She was insufferable, and her defense attorneys were insufferable as well. It was just a cluster F of a case. There was never anything that linked anyone other than Megan to the disappearance of this baby, but she was more than willing to throw her, boyfriend under the bus and claim that he did it. And in one of the grossest displays I've ever seen, in a courtroom, the defense attorney tried to link schizophrenia to foil because, in cartoons and Futurama, the, quote unquote kind of crazy guy archetype has tinfoil hats on. He tried to, out of nowhere, link a schizophrenia diagnosis to tin foil. It was disgusting. It was inappropriate. Megan did not comport herself well, and I have a feeling that she is going to be judged rather harshly. I feel like she deserves to be judged harshly. This baby was alive when she was placed in the trash can. I mean, according to all of the, diagnostics that were done by the medical examiners. And she basically lied to not only her community, but the entire nation because when a child is there's claims of abduction, a lot of times it becomes a countrywide international news story. And Megan exploited that, trying to get sympathy, all the while knowing that her daughter was in a trash bag, in a trash can, and in a playhouse on her dad's land. So she knew this entire time and allowed everyone to look and try to, expend a bunch of energy to try to find this little girl. And when she was found, tried to blame someone else, tried to blame her boyfriend. It's just, yeah, that was a really ridiculous thing. I have never seen anything like it in a court of law. I mean, as a non-lawyerologist, I don't have like a clear, is this normal or not? But when I asked Jedi Jess, who is a legalologist, like, this isn't normal, and she's like, no, no. Now, this was incredibly heartbreaking. It does seem like to give Megan any mitigating issues, it does seem that Megan's family dealt with when she was a child, was dealing with substance abuse issues and a lot of chaos. And it does seem like she was in and out of foster care, in and out of, relatives' houses while her parents were dealing with her own issues. That being said, there is a moment where you go from being a victim to a perpetrator. And after you become a perpetrator, I don't, I understand the factors that went into creating your psyche, but I didn't, I find I have less sympathy for your victimhood when you become a perpetrator. That's just me. Yeah, Southern Red Sox girl, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And it's just, it was one of the harder cases that I covered, but I'm glad that I covered it, and now we give to respect Evelyn and the baby that, we all lost. I mean, the entire world lost this child because Megan didn't want to be a parent, and there were plenty of people around her who would have taken this child. That's what I don't get. I don't understand. It's not that she lacked resources. And the defense kept wanting to say and pull upon this victim kind of narrative that she was a young mother and that, she was trying her best. I'm sorry, but I had a young mother. I was a younger mother, and my house didn't look like that. That house was disgusting and gross. Like there's having small children mess, and then there's leaving disgusting diapers to decompose. Gross. And I don't get that. And it also sets up a real big thing that isn't true. You can have not a lot of money and your house doesn't have to look like a pigsty. I mean, there are people that may not have a lot, but keep their house really, really, really neat. Yeah, Denise, the amount of resources that were put into the searches for this baby would have been justified had this dumpster fire person not known. But yeah, because they were going in and out of wilderness areas and things like that. It was a lot of different moving parts because you had the federal people, you had local cops. Thank you so much. You had all of these different divisions working together to try to find this baby. And you could tell, I mean, there are good cops and there are bad cops, but you could tell that these officers, because they have children of their own, just wanted to find this baby. They're like, look, we don't care what you were doing, what your mom was doing, whatever pharmaceuticals, anything was happening. We just want to find this baby. And going back and looking at some of the testimony as I was trying to quickly put up the stream, The men, the grown men who found this baby, you could tell that to this day they carry that pain. They carry that guilt that they couldn't find her or, get to her in time. And it's just, that's the other part. People like Megan, people like Lori Vallow, people like Sarah Boone, people like all of the people that we've met in trial, they don't just have one singular victim, even if their, body count is only one. It's the family. It's those of us that learned about this case and, for with our empathy can put ourselves in this situation and how none of what she did would be something we would do. The Summer Wells case, I do hope, I haven't kept up with that as much here lately, but I do hope the Summer Wells case is we're getting something done because it seems like we have gone so long without any answers in the Summer Wells case. And there, I haven't dug deeply enough into the Summers Wells case to give you, anything but rampant and rank speculation. What I will say is the parents don't seem to be as forth. There seems to be something with the parents, and it's not anything I can define for you. It's like that lizard brain thing where I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but for some undefinable reason you are uneasy with someone. That would be great because I really I want to be involved in all these cases, but time and energy are also factors that I have to deal with reality. So if you have a lot of collated information, that would be great because it's really easy for me to do that on my laptop and look at it while I'm resting. So that's good. But I will say, like I said, I haven't ever met them personally, so I feel like I can't for sure say, but there is something about their story about the entire family that really doesn't sit well with me. And I know that's not, empirical or anything, but I tend to believe that we do have these gut feelings that need to be backed up with evidence. That's where I think a lot of, streamers maybe get because you can have a really good gut feeling, but you can't present it as being anything other than, rampant speculation, which I try not to do because, I don't want to, throw out a bunch of random things that I can't prove against people. I just got done with Megan Fox on a case where, random allegations with absolutely no proof have ruined multiple families' lives. And I never want to be a part of that. But I will say honestly that the parent's story doesn't ring true to me. And I feel like there's something there. I don't know what it is. I'm not a FBIologist or Clarice Starling. Yeah, pretty much. And and a lot of it has become, again, I think that there are places for that, but we also have to remember, and I think we're seeing a really good explanation or a really good example of there are certain things that are allowed on podcasts, on true crime, story times that aren't admissible in court. And I think we're really being shown a fairly clear picture of that on the Chris Wolfenberger case. Uh, no, but I will just put my email in there. I need to get one set up. I know you guys are going to be shocked. I'm a bit of a chaos demon, so like getting things done that are actually make sense and logical, not generally my raison d'être, not generally my happy place. Let me see, add to stage. Alrighty. And thank you for gifting a membership, Squaw Bob, and that went to Denise. Welcome to the Church of Mo. And I'm actually proud of myself. Not that this is like a huge goal, but we are 5 days in, and I've gotten 5 musings with Mo done, which is a mini goal I've been working on, being consistent, which is always helpful. I'm working on it. Yeah, and I think there's a difference. That's why I can tell you my speculations on certain things, but I I don't present it as truth. And I think that's where maybe some creators, and again, I'm not telling anyone, I don't have beef. I am not talking, I am not, spilling tea, sipping tea, any of the teas. I am simply saying for me, my comfort level is that I let you guys know that when I'm speculating and when I'm not. So you guys have a clear no, you're clearly knowing what it is, and I'm clearly defining that. Yeah, I will say that I do feel like their marriage was very chaotic. I do think that there might have been times that he inexcusably laid hands on Melissa, um, but I don't think that they had enough. And I wish they would have waited and held Chris Wolfenberger's case until they had more evidence. So, regardless of whatever Melissa was struggling it with, whatever Melissa decided about the custody of her children, or who her parents were. No one, no one deserves to be laid to rest separately in trash bags and have their body, strewn across the street by dogs. And I wish the state would have been much more thorough and found firm in who they picked. I think that there were a lot of people that had motivation to take out Melissa, and if they didn't really look at all of them, including the parents, which they did have, some fairly, damning evidence, doesn't take away the damning evidence against Chris, but they could have done a better job. They could have, and I did have a question about that, Sue, because the forensic odontologist or dentist or whatever she was, how many people have, regular teeth with one filling? Did they overlap all the x-rays? It just seemed like she looked and saw one filling and said, that's the chick. It didn't seem like it went deeper than that. And she kind of seemed like maybe she didn't have the report in front of her or she was confused. I don't know what was going on with her, but there did seem to be a disconnect with the forensic dentist as far as how all of this happened and how she made sure that this wasn't another one. Yeah, hopefully Richard Allen's, I know all the transcripts are open and ready. I just need to figure out a time when I want to start reading and going through all of those. But that is a giant undertaking, and I'm hoping to get that maybe closer to fall or, well, real fall, like October. And thank you, Squab Bob. And that went to Conversations Living Room with RJ. And thank you, Sticky Widget, for being a member for 6 months. I appreciate it so much. Yeah, I do feel like the Waffle House guy, um, again, if she were possibly going to have his child. Although, can we talk about how many Walmart or how many Waffle Houses are there in the general Atlanta area? Because good night nurse, they're like, oh no, that's the one off of Peachtree. Oh no, that's the one off of Dalton. Oh no, that's the one off of like Ulysses Drive. Like, how many Waffle Houses are in Georgia? Because I was astonished by the amount of Waffle Houses, and then I was even more astonished by the lives of Waffle Houses. Like, forget Real Housewives of New Jersey. I want the real lives of Waffle House, Georgia. Like, that's what I want. I want, who's sleeping with whose baby daddy comes in, who does the extra good hash browns. Like, that's that's my train wreck television. Looks like Tennessee is on mosey time because it's supposed to have started, 5 minutes ago. I will say, I like the waffles from Waffle House, but everything else is very, very greasy. And I know that you generally go there for the greasy kind of food to soak up alcohol, but I was never a big, I'm never been a big old drinker, so who knows? Georgia's thick with Waffle House. I know, now I want a waffle. This is terrible. This is terrible. Yeah, Jedi Jess, I haven't even gotten to the DV expert with her wheel of ridiculousness. I about wanted to lose my soul. Like directly my soul was going to come out of my body when the angry short defense attorney in the Wolfenberger case and I think the DA investigator were having a pissing match. I was like, if I were the judge, I would have pulled them both over and no one's getting a frosty. Because those two, snipping back and forth at each other was about to make me lose my mind because they were wasting time. It was I was done, done, done. That being said, there is reminders for tonight that Shizzy and I have the pregame show where we'll be looking at the naked car chase from LA because, who doesn't you decide to run from the cops and then hold them in a standoff for 4 hours while nude? I mean, it's any given Tuesday for me, really. That being said, we also will have a bunch of other stuff. It's just a fun place where we hang out before Expert starts his stream on Fridays, where I'll probably be hanging out for a little bit. Yeah, Fridays are kind of my marathon days, so you get a bunch of Mo on Fridays. Do I ever eat my waffles with chicken? Um, I know it's a thing in the South. I will say that don't use me for anything food as a litmus test. I'm incredibly picky. I don't like my food touching. So the thought of having chicken and waffles together and putting syrup on top of fried chicken sounds yuck to me. That being said, I know people really like it, but I'm also a picky eater that doesn't like my foods touching. And thank you, Squab Bob, for another membership. And that went to Southern Red Sox Girl. I'm going to have to think of a little song thing like Shizzy does. That being said, I love waffles and fried chicken separately. So I would probably order it and just separate them. Now, I probably would not be invited back to the South if I did that. But I can say that I would definitely just deal with that. Because we did. Although I miss it now that they're older, but not enough to go back, if that makes any sense. It's more like one of those fond memories like, oh, you'll laugh about it later, and you do laugh about it later, but you would never want to go through it again. That's kind of where I put, the you have to wear pants. Please just wear pants. Why are you naked? Why are all of you naked? Put on clothing. And Sticky Widget, thank you for the gifted membership. And that went to Spin Stir, Key Kiki Tron, Zarina, Christopher McCoy, and Danielle. So welcome to the Church of Mo. We have musings every morning and mornings with Mo every weekday and Saturday. No Sunday. I do take Sundays off for the most part. And we just do dark chocolate humor, the absurd, and all the rest of it, pretty much. We're kind of a jack of all trade, Jill of all trade channel here. Thank you, thank you. And y'all are doing awesome. The swear jar is filling up with, coupons to get me out of trouble. Well, doesn't waffles or chicken and waffles have syrup? I mean, I always assumed it did. I look, I'm in Indiana. I'm not that close to the South, so I don't know. Oh my goodness, you guys. Friday is at least it's warmed up a little bit, but it's not super warm. Oh, really? So you're just straight eating a dry waffle? Hmm. You know, I'd actually probably eat that before I would eat it with syrup. Because if it's a carb, I have like there has not been a carb I don't love. Okay, rye bread, like really, really heavy with the rye bread. But I mean, I have no idea. Hot sauce, maybe? Gravy. That's an interesting thought because I guess the waffles would just be a bun. I don't know. I tend to be that person, that adult grown person who still orders chicken tenders because mainly they don't mess them up at restaurants. Yeah, it's definitely a more southern thing. And yeah, you'd have to talk to someone really southern because I know there's different places. And Sticky Widget says there's a place near me that serves the waffle chicken and it comes with syrup on the side for dipping, like a French dip. I could deal with that. I could deal with that. That is from my picky soul where I don't have to have like a bunch of sticky waffles. I can just dip it. I might be warming up to chicken and waffles. Come on, Tennessee, what's going on here? See if Court TV has anything. Sometimes I think they just put something up about it, so maybe it's delayed. No, they're just pimping the link. Refresh, make sure we're not. Nope, we're doing good. They're just waiting. Now I'm gonna have to get Mr. Mo to get some fried chicken because that actually doesn't sound bad for food. And I love fried chicken. Like some people don't like it. I am a fan. Sticky and I are in Weirdo Land. Oh, and I've heard of hot honey. I will say that here lately I just can't tolerate spice. I used to be able to do like mild or medium spicy level stuff. Here lately, even mild has been too much. I'm like, what in the heck, taste buds? This is not fair. I'm in central, southern, centralish Indiana. It's kind of like too far north to be south and too far south to be north. So it's kind of in that weird, wacky middle where no one claims it. I don't. I mean, I do. Ooh, now fried cheese curds, be still my heart. Those are good, especially with ranch dressing, which is just, you know, just infinitely more terrible for you. Because all you need to top with like deep fried cheese is ranch dressing. But I love them. I mean, it is like the best guilty pleasure that I have. Come on, Tennessee. Now, I will say, I believe that Megan will be here. Now, I know that Megan's mother, during the trial, I believe, was getting ready to start a sentence or had some charges pending for stealing a car. So she might not be there. These victim impact statements might not include a lot of family. I do believe that Megan Boswell's father will probably be testifying along with probably her foster mother. And one of the, oh, here we are. And I think one of the most devastating things is that the foster mother really um, had offered Megan a lot of opportunities to help and try to give her motherhood skills. I feel you. Oh, I know you're not walking in here with a little smirk, ma'am.
2025, a jury convicted Miss Boswell of first-degree murder in count one, first-degree murder in perpetration of felony in counts 2 and 3. The jury sentenced her to life. The jury also convicted her in count 4 of aggravated child abuse, count 5 aggravated child neglect, Count 6, tampering with evidence. Count 7 through 17, false report. Count 19, abuse of corpse. Count 20, failure to report a death under suspicious, unusual, or unnatural circumstances. So we're here on counts 4 through 20 for sentencing today. Is the state ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Defense ready to proceed?
Yes, yes,
Because sentencing, the first thing that's up, the state has to verdict.
Judge, how are you gonna handle the pre-sentence report that we made?
Because of the nature of this case, it's gonna be exhibit number 1. I normally don't make any exhibit, but I think in this case,
fine with me.
Thanks, Judge.
somebody have a copy of it? It's not been marked up? And if you don't, I've got it in the file. I just gotta find it. Which file it's in?
Good, we have a clean copy.
That is some beautiful silver hair on that bailiff. Oh Lord, y'all, I was with Megan Fox the last 2 days. I'm going to be talking about all their hair. I live to help.
General, the state having approved?
Yes, Your Honor, the state will call Sheriff Jeff Cassidy.
Raise your right hand, state your name, please.
Sheriff Jeff Cassidy.
Solemnly swear affirm testimony about to give the truth, all truth, and nothing but the truth.
Tell the court your name and where you're employed,
Jeff Cassidy, Sheriff of Sullivan County Sheriff's Office.
and how long have you been with the sheriff's office?
Been with them a total of 29 years. This is my 7th year as sheriff.
Okay, and so that means you were sheriff in 2020 during the time of this investigation, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm gonna take you back to February 2020. Was Sullivan County the first agency to be involved in the investigation of missing child Evelyn Boswell?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me briefly how Sullivan County how the investigation started?
Missing child at first, and then once we found out that the last time the baby was saw was in December, we knew he was already behind the curve there. We was probably 2 months away from utilizing the resources that we needed to rescue or recover a baby Evelyn.
Okay. How old were you told Evelyn was the time the investigation began?
15 months.
Okay. What was your role in the investigation?
Of course, as a lead agency, I always stay in contact and communication with all my detectives and everybody that was responded to this scene and responded to all the tips across pretty much the region. So, I was constantly in communication with TBI, FBI, and my detectives.
Okay. If you had to give an approximate number, how many Sullivan County employees do you think were tasked with working this investigation?
Aside from my executive staff, which is about 14, we had probably an additional 40 worked around the clock just on this case.
Okay. When you say around the clock, was there 24/7 coverage
Yes, ma'am.
of this? And are we talking about from the day she was reported missing until the day that she was found?
Yes, ma'am.
It's approximately 18 days.
Yeah, from about February 18th to March 6th, I've looked through our records, and just overtime hours alone on this case was 740 hours.
Okay. And that's employees working their regular shifts plus overtime?
Plus
essentially.
overtime.
Okay. So, let me ask this first. Did Sullivan County end up requesting the assistance from other agencies?
Yeah, this was a unique case. Normally we work most cases on our own, but we had to pull resources from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Virginia State Police, SBI,
What is the SBI?
State Bureau of Investigation, and then we had Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, and then multiple local regional jurisdictions up into North Carolina and other states in Middle Tennessee.
Okay. And is that essentially from following tips that were coming in?
Yeah, anything that came through, we followed every lead, tried to look into everything that was brought to the VCC, which is the Virtual Command Center through Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
And is the virtual command center, that's where the tips would come in to decide how to then send them back out to be investigated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. With these different agencies and with Sullivan County, what types of resources were you able to, what did you utilize to try to find this baby?
We utilized every resource that I've ever even been involved in that was at our disposal. I mean, we took jets to different places to expedite the finding of any type of information that may lead to the recovery of Evelyn. We utilized everything the TBI and FBI provided us with, just anything that was at our disposal. And we probably used more resources for this than anything I can ever remember.
We know that one of the stories, false reports that the defendant gave was that a person by the name of Ethan Perry had Evelyn. What did you have to do in regards to following that lead? What resources were used?
Yeah, he was in the military in Louisiana, from what I remember, and we had to send some detectives up there as well.
Okay. And we know another story that she gave was that she kept hinting at Mendota, Virginia, over and over. Is that a lead that you also use resources to follow?
Yeah, United States Marshal, I left that out. United States Marshals helped us out on that one in Mendota.
Okay. She also told you that Angela Boswell, her mother, had Evelyn at some point. Did you follow that lead?
Yes,
Yes, there were like 3 to 4 different stories that Megan had come up with. Ethan Perry, the father who was in, the military in Louisiana, then her mother, then Mendota. There were so many resources and so many leads that these police officers had to look into. It's ridiculous. She cost so many tax dollars. It's maddening.
we worked extensively on that one. We thought that she may have had custody of baby Boswell, so that went into North Carolina, and I think the dive team went into the ponds over there as well.
Okay. So in preparation for today's hearing, you were asked to review Sullivan County records regarding this investigation, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the records that you reviewed, were they all maintained by the sheriff's office?
Yes, ma'am, just the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office.
And the purpose of those was to come up with the manpower that was used,
Yes, ma'am.
to get an approximate amount of manpower and overtime hours, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What if the defendant had told the truth on day one?
Yeah,
Objection calls for speculation.
I could ask you a different way. Would you have found Evelyn if the defendant had told the truth on day one?
Objection
Yes.
calls for speculation.
Wait, what are we speculating about, Einstein? If your client had told the truth, they would have collected that baby without expending all the resource. I'm confused. That's just a logical conclusion, not a speculation. Have you looked at your thesaurus lately, Sarah Boone? Because I think you're off.
Sustained. Yeah, you need to rephrase it. It's too broad right now.
Are we having...
If you had known that Evelyn was dead on day one, would that have changed the way you conducted your investigation?
absolutely.
Okay. Would all of these resources have been used?
No, ma'am.
Were you aware of community involvement during the time of this investigation, the 18 days of investigation?
Yeah, extremely. They really provided us a lot of additional resources that not criminal justice related, just like they brought us food to the office so we could eat and still work, and they all pulled together during that time and just showed tremendous outpouring of support for our entire agency. And, across the nation, really, this was a national recognized case, so the people around here in the community, they started Evelyn's Army, and they provided food for us daily.
Based on your own personal observations, what did the impact on the community look like to you?
Very emotional, just like my staff. I mean, everything you see, people wanted to find this baby, and that was their number one goal. And, whatever it may take, whatever it may need, whatever resource may need to be utilized, everybody was willing and able to put in their time, effort, and energy to locate baby Evelyn. And, just like my staff, I mean, the emotional toll on them, the lack of sleep, but they never did get fatigued. I tried to send some home, and they said, no, I'm not going home. I'm going to work on this case until we find the baby.
Well, Sue, I do think that some states do a pre-trial or sentencing investigation. So some states might be required to have them do a pre-sentencing investigation before they sentence. It's a lot of it goes down to the statutes and how your state does it.
Okay, no other questions? Please
Thank
answer
you.
any questions Mr. Scott has for you.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
State would call, take the map, right?
Tell us where from testimony about the truth, what we're going to do. Yes, sir.
You're Matt Price, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What is your position at the sheriff's department?
I'm Lieutenant in Criminal Investigations.
All right. And Lieutenant Price, you very familiar with the investigation involving the disappearance and death of Evelyn Boswell, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What was your role in the investigation?
This case was assigned to me as the lead investigator with the sheriff's office. So I was the lead investigator.
All right. And you worked, the sheriff has testified to, you worked hand in hand with numerous agencies in the investigation, including the TBI, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And Agent David Gratz at the time, also two of you
Worked it.
worked extensively, that'd be
Yes.
correct. You familiar with the evidence that was collected in the case, the discovery of the body of the victim, Evelyn Boswell?
Yes.
Lieutenant Price, I'm going to hand you some photographs. I'm just going to do this one at a time so for the sake of getting these exhibits in. I'm going to hand you the first photograph, ask you if you can show us, identify what's shown in that photo.
Okay, I still say off subject. He has the most beautiful bone structure and would make a beautiful woman. That being said, I don't know why my brain thinks like that, but they do. This isn't before the jury, so this is basically the judge is going to weigh the kind of totality, all the factors in the case. The defense is probably going to bring on some witnesses that will talk about how Megan's life was maybe chaotic. So the state is going to show, points about the crime that would probably lend you to having a bigger sentence, while the defense is going to try to bring in mitigating factors. So like, well, Megan was a product of a very chaotic home and she didn't have any good parental, examples or models. So this is kind of what they do. And then the judge is going to look at the statutes. He's going to probably look at the sentencing report and then go with what he believes is correct with all of these factors put together.
Yes, this is a photograph of looking inside the playhouse at the trash can where Evelyn was located.
And is that a true and accurate depiction
Yes.
of that scene?
Okay.
Judge, we would move to make that exhibit number one to this hearing. Two, I'm sorry. And I don't know if it's helpful.
Use the microphone, doggone.
If it's helpful or would create confusion or.
It'll be exhibit one for that second.
Two. You recognize what's shown in the photographs just handed to you?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
Again, this is looking inside the playhouse at the trash can after the, one of the bags had been moved off the top.
Okay. Is there anything of significance that you see as you look at the trash can itself?
Yes, it appears that the items inside the trash can have been compressed.
Judge, we would move to make that exhibit 3 for this hearing. Okay, fine. Lieutenant Price, would you take a look at the photographs being handed to you and ask, or again, ask if you can identify what's shown?
Yes, this is a picture of the inside the trash can with the blanket removed where you can, see baby Evelyn's leg.
Is that the first shot or first, I guess,
Yes.
discovery of the body?
It is correct.
Judge, we would make that exhibit 4 to this hearing.
Yeah, I'm hoping she doesn't, they
Shown
don't,
in that photograph.
because I don't think she'll ever be safe for
This is the
public.
Trash bag that was inside the trash can where baby Evelyn was located, and also the, child is with the aluminum foil and the blanket is laying beside the trash bag.
So, the body's been removed from the trash.
Correct,
bag.
the body's been removed from the trash bag, it's in the trash bag with trash in it. Baby Evelyn is laying there wrapped in blankets and aluminum foil wrapped around her.
Judge, we would move to make that exhibit 5 this hearing. Do you recognize what is
Is that the same douchey defense lawyer from last time? Didn't he have facial hair?
shown in the photographs that's been handed to you?
Yes, I do.
And what is that? A picture of
This is the body of baby Evelyn after she was removed from the trash can, placed inside of a body bag. She's lying there with blankets wrapped around her and aluminum foil wrapped around where her head area was.
it? Judge, we would make that exhibit 6 to this hearing.
And this might be one of the cases where some of the detectives speak out in the
Do you
victim
recognize the
impact
photos that's been
statement.
handed to you?
Yes, I do.
What is shown in that photo?
And this is baby Evelyn laying in, still wrapped in blankets laying on her body bag, with her arm exposed, showing the, onesie that she was wearing.
All right. Is that photo, one of the photos that was taken at the time the body was recovered?
It is correct.
Judge, we would move to make that exhibit 7 to this hearing.
Do something useful in Minecraft.
Lieutenant Price, do you recognize what's shown in that photo?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
This is baby Evelyn after the blankets, and aluminum foil had been removed from her body. It shows the position of her head and how she was laying, when the blanket was removed.
Judge, we move to make that exhibit 8 to this hearing.
Yeah. I would I would classify all the police officers, but I do believe that this particular police officer was also there when they found baby Evelyn and might have been one of the first people to see her. And Megan, this man is now a victim of Megan's crime too. He had to see this. He spent 18 days of his life trying to find this baby, hours away from his family, hours where he was living on caffeine trying to find this baby. And it's heartbreaking that Megan's selfishness not only took her daughter away from the world, but also left these scars on all of the first responders.
Finally, Lieutenant Price, give you one more photo and asking you to identify that photograph, please.
Yes, I can. This is a
Zarina, I believe that was Leilani. I cannot remember her last name, but I do know that they looked through a landfill with this one. This one, they were looking through a lot of lakes, barracks on an army base, and Mendota, Virginia.
picture of Evelyn, one of the last known pictures. We know that when she was alive.
There's we make that exhibit number 9. Thank you, Lieutenant Price. If you would answer any questions, Mr. Scott has to wait.
No questions, Sheriff.
That's all the evidence to say.
Judge Boswell would like to make an allocution.
Oh God, no, it is the annoying dick bag. Oh Lord. All right, buckle in. Get your snacks, because this man's gonna be insufferable. I recognize that vocal tonal quality, and yes, this is the same D-bag that she had for a defense attorney, allegedly in Minecraft. Don't come after me, sir, or it really would make you a D-bag. Allegedly in Minecraft. Oh, hell no. I want to listen to you even less than I want to listen to your D-bag lawyer. Who the hell is she? Do we know?
I would just like to say that the state of Tennessee treated me very unfair during this whole investigation, and that I
Oh, hell no, son of a half-baked biscuit. You do not come in here pulling a full goddamn Sarah Boone like you have something. Oh, hell no. Agatha the leg is really, you are testing the Jesus in me. Are you freaking kidding me? You're going to come up here with an attitude? I don't want to hear your elocution. I would rather you get beamed with kooshball. Oh, oh hell. Oh hell, we are send prayers and curse jar bail money.
had a fair trial and an impartial jury, I would have been acquitted of the murder charges. I would have never hurt my baby, and I did not kill Evelyn.
Fuck you sideways with a cactus, bitch. Yeah, after that, have fun.
Judge, the state has, prior to this hearing, filed a notice of intent in regards to enhancing factors that we believe apply, as well as a notice of intent to seek consecutive sentencing, which is what we are asking the court to do. And we believe, based upon the seriousness of the offense, as well as the fact that Ms. Boswell is a dangerous offender whose behavior indicates little, no regard for human life, that she had no hesitation about committing a crime in which the risk of human life was high, that this court shall render those sentences consecutive to each other. And I want to touch briefly on the enhancement factors, and primarily on the one that I think just screams out in this case, which is the violation of trust. Truly, I think the facts that were involved in this case, and the court, of course, consider everything that was presented and that came in at trial, as well as the photographs that have been introduced at the sentencing hearing, which again, those were all part of the trial evidence as well. But the trust that Miss Boswell betrayed upon her daughter was just so callous.
Me too.
She chose herself repeatedly, time and time again, over her child. All deaths are horrible, but for a small child to die in the way that Evelyn died just shows such extreme callousness. And those photographs show you. I mean, she was discarded like a piece of common garbage. Detective Lieutenant Price testified to, it looks like the body has been compressed, pushed down in the trash can, so we can fit more trash, more garbage on top of the child. But probably the most hurtful and severe part of this whole, and painful part of this, is the fact that all that occurred at the hands of the one person that she should have been able to rely upon and trust to protect her own mother. But Megan didn't do that. Megan repeatedly chose Megan. Megan
Yeah.
chose her life. Megan chose living in a big house out by the lake. Megan chose going to the movies. She chose going to Blowing Rock, going to Gatlinburg, again and again and again, over her own daughter. In order for the court to find that the defendant was a dangerous offender and apply consecutive sentencing, there are two things that the case law has said the court has to find. One is that it relates to the severity of the crime. And I can think of nothing that would be any easier than to relate consecutive sentencing to the facts of this case. And what Ms. Boswell did. I mean, not only did she murder her own child and then go about her own life, but then once law enforcement was finally brought into the case, not because of her, not because she did anything, but because it finally got reported by her dad, well, then she manipulates law enforcement, it manipulates the community by continuing to lie over and over and over again, causing extraordinary resources to have to be involved for weeks trying to find this child in the hopes
Thank you.
that she's alive. And then even after that, even after she finally coughs up the fact that her child is dead, she continues to lie about not knowing where she is. When all along, she's sitting there stuffed upside down in a trash can in her childhood playhouse.
Yeah, that and the desecration
So
of
I
that
think it's
childhood
very
playhouse.
easy for this court to find that the severity of this crime and her suffocating her own child, putting her in a trash can, and then repeatedly lying about it to cover it up relates to the severity of the crime. The second finding this court has to make is that it was necessary that consecutive sentencing is necessary to protect the public from further crimes. And provided the court, as well as Mr. Scott, with the case of State v. Taylor, which was a case in which a small child had been beaten to death, and then the mother basically delayed in reporting, calling 911, which eventually resulted in the child dying because she didn't receive any medical attention. And the court in that case found that the dangerous offender classification was satisfied because the defendant had demonstrated extreme callousness towards the health and welfare of the victim, and the results were fatal. Well, Judge, I really, it does not get any more callous than what the defendant did in this case. You know, she turned her back, she turned her life, she turned her trust away from her own
Yes.
child. Evelyn got in the way of the life Megan Boswell wanted to live, and so she eliminated that problem. It truly does not get any more callous than that. So the state would submit that both those factors are met and that the court should impose consecutive sentencing.
Yes.
I've already touched on the element as far as trust being involved as an enhancing factor. And then sitting here listening to Ms. Boswell's rather brief allocution, I think it's also right for the court to consider the fact that she sits here today in this courtroom still having absolutely no remorse and taking no responsibility for the death of her child.
Yep,
Once
not
again,
one bit.
She wants to make all of us victims in the case, make herself a victim. Sheriff's office, I guess, should be issuing an apology to her for the way she's just been unfairly treated during this whole process. Judge, Miss Boswell was not treated unfairly. Her child was treated unfairly. Her 15-month-old child never had a chance because of the one person who should have protected her. So for that reason, the state is asking you to maximize her sentence in the remaining counts that she has to be sentenced on, and we would ask that they be run consecutive, Judge. Thank you.
Oh Lord, not you, you idiot.
I guess I'll try to address this in somewhat the way Mr. Harper did, maybe in the back of this fashion. Ms. Boswell had no prior criminal history when this case started, when the investigation started. At some point, she was convicted of a reckless driving B misdemeanor in Washington County, I think in February of 2020. That's the only criminal history she comes to this court with.
I don't care if she was recklessly driving, and the one thing she's been convicted for is kind of huge, you know, in this particular case. So I don't care that she just had a speeding ticket.
In jail since she was 18 years old. She would be in jail if this court were to sentence her to the low end of everything, and not run consecutive. She'll be in jail until she's 69 years old. So the court then has to determine, is she, at that point, is she going to be a threat to society? Society needs to be protected from 69-year-old Megan Boswell. The court should, I guess first the court has to consider the length of the sentence. She's arranged one offender as to each count. The court should impose I think the sentence is, short of a sentence is as necessary, is what the court is supposed to do, to achieve the purposes of sentencing. Here, serving a life sentence. She will be eligible for parole at 69 years old. So how much more do you need? Essentially, the state asks you to sentence her to life without parole, is what they want.
That's what we all want, sweetheart. I mean, that's what we're all like. I got fingers, toes crossed, ligaments, nerves. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what we all want when human garbage dumpster people prove that they're human garbage dumpster people. Uh, Delilah, it is as high as I can get it to go. I do have sound boosters and the closed caption. This lawyer is not speaking into a microphone, so I am trying to be quiet. I do have it boosted as loud as it will go, but I will try to be quiet. It is a bit hard to hear, though. I do apologize.
And we have addressed that issue already in a manner of speaking. We, I guess, practice law 25 years, not the only jury sentencing I've ever done. But the jury had the opportunity, after hearing all these facts, to consider whether to sentence her to life without parole or life with parole. They sentenced her to life with parole. And I know you're not bound by that on these other counts, but I think in fairness, in deference to that jury, we have to give some respect to what determination they made. And they were aware of all the other charges. Obviously, they heard the guilt phase on those and convicted her of those. So I think that is important to consider. She's eligible for probation on all the other charges. The court has to make a determination whether or not those sentences should be suspended or served. The court has to make a determination whether, if they are served, how they're served, consecutive or concurrent. As it relates to a dangerous offender who society has to be protected from, I think the case law is quite clear. Not every person convicted of first-degree murder and another felony is going to fall into that category. Normally, in a lot of the cases you see multiple victims, multiple acts. Here, all those things kind of go together. And I guess the other thing we have to talk.
I would think that the extreme vulnerability and being in a position of trust to the victim would also be absolutely enhancing factors. He's probably looking at only one part of the statute, and I'm sure that the state would not have put forth these enhancements without her actions, or at least being able to argue that they fall within these sort of, enhancing standards.
About is what counts merged together in this sentence. I would suggest, of course, that the murder counts merged together for one count. That the child abuse and child neglect counts should merge. And that all of the following false reports should merge. Because I sent a case to you yesterday. State versus Smith, 436 Southwest 3rd, 751. This is Supreme Court decided that 2014. It talks about cases just like this. In each of these cases, these interviews were basically a continuation of the other interviews. And based on the rule of leniency, the court found that even though in that case interviews were made over multiple days with different officers, just in this case that they had to merge. And that's what I think should happen here, is all those counts should merge. And I guess finally, I want to address what Mr. Harper said about Ms. Boswell's comments. I think a lot of defendants would probably feel that way. But I think she's entitled to maintain her defense. She doesn't have to come in here for purposes of sentencing and somehow take responsibility. The law doesn't
Wait, so she has the constitutional right to be a cahoot? Are you trying to say that Rosa Parks made sure she didn't, move from her seat so this woman could be an absolute swamp donkey? Is that what we're trying to argue? Because, I mean, hey, dress for the job you want. And I guess the job that Megan wanted was to look like an irredeemable murderess. So, yeah, she doesn't have to do anything. She doesn't have to go in there and say anything, but she could have kept her mouth shut and not made it worse for herself. But she's incapable.
require that. That's not one of the factors to consider for consecutive sentencing. That's not one of the factors to consider for length of sentence. The defendant has a right to maintain their innocence, and to hold that against them and to somehow sentence them to more jail time because they don't come in here and say, I did it. That violates due process, it violates the right to trial a jury, the right to appeal. So
She has had a
I would suggest
tr-
to the court that the appropriate sentence here should be bottom end of the range. The sentences should run concurrent, and ultimately she should be left with a chance of parole when she's 69 years old, however that is structured.
Court will be in recess for 15 minutes.
Alrighty. And we are a bit behind, so we get to go on through, which is kind of nice when you get behind. I honestly, I will say that this judge was actually very fair, I think very measured. She was convicted by a jury. Uh, so I do think that the judge was very fair and very, down the center of the road as far as what he was doing. And if you didn't hear the defense attorney, so basically what he wants the judge to do is to merge all of the very similar cases. So instead of looking at the murder, there's two different murder charges. He would look at that as one single crime. And then the CA and neglect charges, those would all be merged, so it would be charged as one crime. Then the lying to police, that would be charged as one crime, and that all of those be on the lower end of the sentencing recommendation, and that she be allowed to have the potential for parole at age 69. So, and he wants all of those to run concurrently. So she will be basically serving for each crime altogether versus if they're or concurrent, once one sentence ends, so she'll have to do her time for the murder, and then she'll have to do the time for the neglect, and then she'll have to do the time for the lying to the police. So that'll be a lot of what he's probably looking at. He's probably looking at statutes and what he believes as far as, enhancing factors and then mitigating factors and what the jury recommended. I'm sure he did seem like a judge who paid attention to the jury and thanked them and, maybe he's going to listen to their wisdom. But I do like the way they are doing this process. I really think Megan did no one any favors by the way she acted today. You would think that, this time would give her time to reflect. And even if it was purely for self-interest, even if it was purely to try to mitigate and get, she felt no, remorse or anything. If it was purely a ploy, it would have been smarter to have gone in there and faked remorse rather than I've been treated unfairly. And if you had been a good jury and they had had a good judge, I wouldn't be, convicted. Well, I'm sure Donna is going to say the same thing, Donna Adelson, after she gets done crying. I'm sure everyone who has been convicted guilty says if I had a different judge and a different lawyer and different facts in my case, I would have won. And I don't buy her attorneys. Well, she has the right to be angry for them being mean. Yeah, and we have a right to take that into the the information that we are compiling about what kind of human she is. And if after all this time she can not look at any of these officers and say thank you for finding my baby, or I'm sorry that I made you find my baby in a trash can, then she has a lot of work to do as a human, and I doubt she's going to do any of it, because that would require her to not be a victim. And she is so stuck in her own victim mentality. Again, she's so stuck in it that she doesn't realize why people are done with her crap, as far as she took the life of her baby daughter. And that just doesn't compute to her. And she will never be safe in society. Not once, not ever, until she gets over this, until she can function on a basic emotional human level and take responsibility. Yeah, she behaved as if she was in another juvenile court with the don't care. The lawyer showed an amazing amount of disrespect, and he was condescending to nearly every single police investigator. He was not a good. Yeah, her statement was beyond sickening. And look, I have only watched The Wire once. I am not a big, I don't have like inside information about prisons, but I have heard that prison and jail is not the place to be found to have taken or hurt a child. I have heard that people don't like it when you're, not good with children and you're bragging about it. And Hey Joe says a lot of judges are starting to crack down on these juveniles and trying them and convicting them as adults because they think they can just do this ish and get away. Yeah. And the lack of accountability. Again, this girl never had to deal with any consequences, and now she doesn't understand the either severity, or she's been told by her lawyer that she's going to get out of this. I don't understand where she thinks this was an appropriate thing to do. Like the judge is going to say, you know what, you said you weren't guilty. We're going to redo this whole trial. You didn't think it was fair. Let's bring everyone back. She will never get to the point of having either emotional maturity or otherwise. And yeah, and that's why she's not safe. If you can't admit to the actual egregious crime and the sorrow and guilt that a normal human would have for taking the life of an innocent baby, then you have no conscience and you are unsafe. We can't let you into the community. We don't know what you're going to do because you obviously don't have, a good test as to whether something is good or bad. You must have not had the highlights, Goofus versus Gallant. You must not have had that. But for the rest of us that did, or, paid attention when it came to being human, this is ridiculous. This is not the way anything acts or behaves. And the fact that she doesn't get that, I mean, here's hoping that she and Sarah Boone are freaking, roommates in the prison system, because I don't see this working out any better for her. On another note, I do hope that her boyfriend is getting the help and care that he needs and is able to rebuild his life. I hope her parents, well, more specifically, her father. I hope that her father is able to, well, just have some peace about this whole situation. I don't know if you ever make peace with it. I don't know, but I do hope that he's able to come to some sort of peace in his heart about it. I hope that, everyone who's been touched by this case is able to find some sort of peace about it, because it's such a horrible case. It betrays everything that, is in us as humans, to protect innocence, to be a good mom, to be a protector. This case betrays so much. But I've also seen cases where it was absolutely unfair to sentence a 12-year-old as a conscious adult. I feel like in NL we have way more options as in mental health and socialization. Yeah, and I do think that this is going to be a multifactorial problem. I mean, you can't just hope that justice reform is going to work. It's going to take community reform. It's going to take, teaching children responsibilities, limits, and boundaries. It's going to be that. Alrighty.
Judge, I think General Massey feels on her way back. Good, but we approach, yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't need to go all the way mute for me. I wonder if they came up with a stipulation. Is that a peekaboo blouse or a keyhole blouse from the 1980s? What is going on here? Is it Murphy Brown time again? Yeah. We are waiting. Oh, I would be so anxious. I'd have little sweat if everyone was waiting on me, like little sweat bead down my back.
Determining the appropriate sentence for these offenses. The court has considered the evidence presented at the trial at this sentencing hearing. Pre-sentence report filed April 4th, 2025, more than 10 days ago. The principles of sentencing and arguments made as sentencing alternatives, the nature and characteristics of the criminal conduct involved, the evidence and information offered by the parties on mitigating and enhancing factors, any statistical information provided by the administrative officer of the courts as to sentencing practices for similar offenses in Tennessee, located at www.tncourts.gov, and any statement the defendant has made on her own behalf about sentencing and the defendant's potential for rehabilitation or treatment. I'm not sure if it was agreed, but the defendant's a range 1 standard offender under Tennessee felony classification laws. And what that means, the aggravated child abuse and neglect charges are Class A felonies, and as a range 1 offender, those would carry somewhere between 15 and 25 years. The tampering with evidence is a Class C felony. The range would be between 3 and 6 years. False reports are Class D felonies, with the range 1 being 2 to 4 years. The abuse of a corpse is a Class E felony, and failure to report death under suspicious, unusual, or unnatural circumstances, also a Class E felony. Those Class E felonies for range 1 would be a range of 1 to 2 years. In determining where the appropriate sentence should be within that range, while not mandatory any longer, the enhancement factors and the mitigating factors are advisory for the court. The state has urged in its filing state's urged, number 3, enhancing factor 3, that the offense involves more than one victim. I think for purposes of this case and all the proof that I heard, I can understand how that argument could be made, but I'm not going to find that enhancing factor number 3 applies. Enhancing factor number 4 is urged by the state. A victim of the offense was particularly vulnerable because of age, physical or mental disability. I think that will apply. Testimony was that baby Evelyn was, everybody keeps saying 15 months old. I think she was 15 months old when she was found. My recollection of proof that she was approximately 13 months old when she went missing. Is that wrong?
Her approximate age at death was 15 months old.
At death?
At death.
Okay. So she was 15 months old.
It was 13 months old at death. It was 15 months old, they assumed, when she was reported. When they didn't know she was alive or dead.
So at the time of her death, she was somewhere between 13 and 15.
Yes.
The state, the court accepts enhancing factor number 4. Number 5 is urged by the state. The defendant treated or allowed a victim to be treated with exceptional cruelty during the commission of the offense. I don't know, and I'm not going to sit here all day and regurgitate the facts from the 11-day trial. But thinking back on the proof that I heard, there can be no more cruel.
He's in Tennessee, so I guess it's go volunteers.
Act than to stuff a 13 to 15-month-old baby wrapped in blankets and aluminum foil head first into the trash can. Especially when that 13 to 15-month-old baby is your baby. So the court accepts number 5. Number 6, the personal injuries inflicted upon or amount of damage to the property was particularly great. The court accepts number 6. There's no greater injury that you can inflict on another human being than death.
Yes.
Enhancing factor 10 was in the filing. The defendant had no hesitation about committing a crime when the risk to human life was high. The court accepts number 10. And then 14, the defendant abused a position of private trust. And again, relationship between mother and child, there can be no greater private trust on this earth than that. So the court accepts number 14. Those are all the enhancing factors that were urged, all the ones that the court, after having looked through them, believes applies. Next, I have to consider mitigating factors in determining the appropriate length of sentence. And again, I'm not going to read, there's 12 statutory mitigators under 40, 35, 113. I'm not going to read all of these in. The defense didn't put any arguments forward as to any mitigating factors that should apply. The court, though, is required on its own, after having read the pre-sentence report, heard the proof, to apply any factors I think are applicable. So there's at least one that could be applicable, and I'm going to talk about it for a moment. If the defendant, because of youth or old age, lacks substantial judgment in committing the offense, the proof is that she was 18 when the killing occurred. But I also have to look at, so there's no question that she was a young adult. But I also have to look at all the other proof and circumstances surrounding the case. And it became very clear to the court upon hearing the evidence that the defendant, in her mind, saw a chance to lead a different life than what she thought she was going to be leading.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, circumstantially, from all the proof, baby Evelyn was a stumbling block to leading that life. So she made the decision to remove that stumbling block. And because that's the tenor of the proof that this court heard, I reject mitigating factor number 6.
Good job, Judge.
She exercised judgment. It wasn't good judgment, but she exercised judgment in doing the things that she did. So of the 12 statutory mitigators, the court doesn't find that any are applicable to this case. Now, the 13th is any other factor consistent with the purposes of the chapter. And courts regularly, if a person comes to the court without a substantial criminal history, courts regularly include that as factor number 13. If a person comes before the court and they've had a long, productive work history, then that factors into 13. If they've had military service, those are the kinds of things that factor into 13. In this case, Ms. Boswell, she did not have a long work history. In fact, the pre-sentence report said, she stated that she'd only ever had one job in her life, and that was at the chicken shack where she was working right around the time of this killing. I am going to give her credit for not having, even though she was only 18, I'm going to give her credit for not having a substantial criminal history, either as an adult or a juvenile. So, the court weighs all the facts that I've heard during the trial, all of the testimony that we've heard at this sentencing hearing. When the court weighs the enhancing factors and the mitigating factors, that's how I arrived at that. or not a verdict, but a sentence.
Come on, life, 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 all the life and no parole. Come on, roll a 20, Judge.
I do want to talk, and I'm going to talk about each of these counts individually with regard to the enhancing factors. Because if an enhancing factor is part and parcel of a charge, then it can't be used as an enhancing factor.
Come on, Judge. You have mosey-itis too. I get it's Friday, but come on.
So for count 4, aggravated child abuse, the state has to prove that the defendant knowingly, by other than accidental means, treated a child under 8 years of age in such a manner as to inflict serious bodily injury. The court is of the opinion that number 4 still applies because of the tender age of the child at the time. It's one thing to be a child under 8 when you're 6 years old or 7 years old. It's quite another thing to be vulnerable because your age is still literally being counted in the
Yeah.
So the court finds number 4 applies. Number 5 is not an element, it applies. Number 6 applies due to the death is not an element of aggravated child abuse or aggravated child neglect. 10 and 14 apply. So the court finds that they all apply. Counts 4 and 5. So the court's of the opinion in that Class A felony that the enhancing factors and the aggravated nature of this case in general take that sentence from 15 to 25 years. And when the court weighs, and quite frankly, each of these enhancing factors, with the exception, number 4 has low weight because of its similarity to those two counts, to the charge. 5, 6,
Thank you, Alice
10,
G.
and 14 have great weight. The court affords very little weight to the fact that Ms. Boswell, at 18 years of age, had no serious criminal history. So the court's of the opinion, in counts 4 and 5, that the sentence should be 25 years. The court's also of the opinion that count 5 merges into count 4.
So he is merging 4 and
The
5,
false-
the
I'm sorry, the tampering
abuse
with
and
evidence.
neglect.
The court's of the opinion that all the enhancing factors should be afforded great weight. And the sentence should be 6 years. The mitigating factor, which is the court's been giving very little weight, would not bring it back down. Now, with the false report, the court's of the opinion that the enhancing factors would take that sentence from 2 up to 4 years. And again, there being only the one consideration of the mitigator, it'll be 4 years. Under the case of State versus Smith, Tennessee Supreme Court 436 Southwest 3rd, 751, handed down in 2014. Justice Holder, I believe, delivered the opinion to the court. And the opinion of the court was that due to the principle of lenity, not leniency, that a false report, because the legislature was ambiguous as to how they think that a false report should be punished, that the unit of prosecution isn't determined by the number of individual and distinct occurrences of false statement, but that the unit of prosecution is whether a false statement was given pursuant to a particular incident or offense. At least that's the way I read it. So it wasn't that it's a continuation of the interview. It's that the incident that is in the officer's concern is the disappearance of the child. And the Supreme Court says, in that case, that even if you tell 16 false statements about the disappearance of that child on different days and to different people and different variations of the story, it's still one incident. It's the disappearance of the child. So counts 7 through 17 all merge into one count. So they all merge, counts 8 through 17 merge into count 7. In count 19, the courts of the opinion, the enhancing factors take that sentence from 1 up to 2 years. So that'll be a 2-year sentence. In count 20, and again, I'm weighing the lack of mitigators. In count 20, that sentence will be 2 years as well, for the same reason. Now, since I've already talked about merger, the courts of the opinion that counts 1, 2, and 3 would all merge into a single life sentence.
Life sentence.
So counts 2 and 3 merge into count 1. Now we'll talk about consecutive sentencing. In the state's filing, the state under 40-35-115 urged, and I think this might be a mistake, that urged number 2, that the defendant is an offender whose record of criminal activity is extensive.
And of course, ruling, I just so clarify, it wasn't a mistake, but at the time it was filed, I believe we would have all the false report counts, relying on false criminal history. Obviously, since the court's stronger, more duplicitous, that doesn't exist anymore, so we're not relying on that.
The court objection number 2. But the court also relies on enhancer number 4 from the same statute, 40-35-115, that the defendant is a dangerous offender whose behavior indicates little or no regard for human life and no hesitation about committing a crime in which the risk to human life is high. Now that's what the factor says in the statute. But as pointed out in State versus Taylor, (2017) Westlaw 2179952, also case numbers M 2015-02142-CCA-R3-CD. It's an unpublished case, but the unpublished case references published opinions. And the most important one that it references is State versus Moore that quotes from the main case is the Wilkerson case, 905 Southwest 2nd. 933, Tennessee Supreme Court from 1995. And the Supreme Court, in determining the appropriateness of 4035-115, enhancing factor number 4, states that in addition to what's stated in the statute,
I'm not
the
sure.
court must also find that a sentence, consecutive sentencing, is necessary in order to protect the public from further misconduct by the defendant, and that the terms are reasonably related to the severity of the offense. So, from the facts of this case, and again, I'm not going to just keep repeating it. Everybody who sat through that trial knows the facts that came in.
Then hurry up, sir.
Testimony during the trial was that that child was suffocated. When you look at the pictures of how tightly this baby was wrapped in blankets and aluminum foil, and the mechanism of being stuffed into that trash can head first, there's no doubt in my mind that this defendant had absolutely no hesitation
No.
when she killed her daughter. And in hearing the proof during trial of how she continued to live her life, and from hearing the proof circumstantially as to why she might have done this deed, because this new boyfriend is the life that she wanted to grasp onto. It's like the state said, the house on the lake. A lifestyle that she wanted for herself. The fact that Evelyn was just in the way. And looking at all the video that we saw during the trial, this court never once saw remorse, never once saw empathy out of the defendant. So she is a dangerous offender. The circumstances surrounding the commission of this offense are absolutely aggravated. This baby couldn't care for herself. This baby had the only life this baby knew. The only way this baby could get through a day was through her mom.
Come on, Judge.
And I understand that the way the parole system is set up when dealing with a life conviction is that she has to serve 51 years before she's even eligible for consideration for release. And Mr. Scott asked the question during his argument, which was the right question to ask. Is Megan Boswell at 69 years of age coming out of prison a risk to society?
Yes. If she has no conscience and no
The only conclusion that I
remorse.
can come to after hearing the proof in this case, seeing the evidence in this case, seeing how utterly unconcerned with the fact that she took the life of a 15-month-old child, her own child. The court has to answer that question, yes.
Thank you, Judge.
That society does need to be protected from the evil that lurks in her heart. And then would the aggregate length of the sentence reasonably relate to the offense which she stands convicted? For the same reasons I just said, yes is the answer. So the court finds that all those sub-factors, if you will, are met. And I want to read a passage. And I think the state may have, but I highlighted this yesterday when I read the case. In State versus Durantes, 331 Southwest 3rd, 370, at page 376, the Tennessee Supreme Court in 2001 found that the dangerous offender classification was satisfied where a defendant demonstrated extreme callousness toward the health and welfare of the child victim, and that the results of that callousness were fatal. It's almost as though that passage was written to describe this case. Therefore, the 25-year sentence for the merging counts of aggravated child abuse and neglect will be consecutive to the life sentence.
Okay, so that's, yeah, so she'll have to serve her entire life and
The
then.
6-year sentence for tampering with evidence and the 4-year sentence for false report will be concurrent with each other, but consecutive to the 25 years.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And the 2-year sentences for the abuse of corpse in count 19 and count 20 will be concurrent with each other, but consecutive to the 6 years. So in counts 4 through 20, that'll be a 33-year sentence as a range 1 standard offender, consecutive to her life sentence. The court has considered probation. She's not eligible for probation on the Class A felonies. That 25 years has to be served by statute. The court has considered probation on the additional 8 years and finds that a grant of probation would depreciate the seriousness of this case, given the facts of this case, given the fact that she has shown no remorse, she has shown no empathy towards this child, her child, and probation in those counts will be denied. Mr. Scott, I believe at sidebar, you had indicated that you would like to have a transcript prepared before, in order to prepare the motion for new trial.
Yes, Judge.
I'll order that transcript, whatever order I need to sign, share, I'll do it.
Judge, I would
Oh.
also like to have this sentencing period as well.
So she is motioning, she is getting ready to try to put in motions for a new trial. So it does seem that Megan Boswell is getting information from her lawyer that she is entitled to a new trial. So what the judge is doing, Justin Smith, because it's a little bit complicated. Basically, he merged some of the charges, but the life sentence is going to run first, and then the merged 25 years for the child abuse and child neglect is going to run concurrent to the life sentence. So once she's done with the life sentence, she's going to have to serve the neglect abuse charges. Once that done, then there is I think 10-year sentence or 10-year sentence for all of the lying to the courts, and that is going to be merged. Who knows how she thinks she's going to get another trial.
Sentencing hearing will need to be typed up as well. We'll set this for status. We'll send Ms. Boswell back to TDOC. And let's set this for a status on January 16th to see where we are on getting the transcript prepared.
That's fine, but I'll wait Ms. Boswell's appearance at that.
Well, what I prefer her to do is appear by Zoom.
That's
If
fine.
if she can, but if not, yes, we can.
Okay.
Fine. All right, that's all.
Alrighty. So she is never getting out of prison. Keep smiling, heifer. Off you trot. Well, yeah, so she and it looks like her lawyer are going to be filing motions for a new trial. I'm sure that will go about as well as, Shanda Vander Ark's request for a new trial. I am sending you guys over to Flux. She is doing some video gaming, I think. So you guys can have a little bit of a craptastic people break, and then I will be back on tonight with the pregame show, and then on with the expert. So I'll hang out with you guys there. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This was a rough trial, so thank you guys for joining me. I think this might have been one of the first trials I did on the Petty Express, so thank you guys for hanging out with me for this long. And for baby Evelyn, I'm glad that you are not forgotten, and now someone is paying for paying with their life for your life. She's never going to get out, and she's never going to hurt another child. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire, because Megan Boswell is still out there. Ugh. Bye, you guys. Basically, she got the equivalent to life. She will never get out of parole. She has concurrent sentences until she dies, basically. Bye, you guys.